Think about the last time you wanted something badly. A job, a relationship, an opportunity that would have changed everything. You applied, you pursued, you hoped, you maybe even prayed, and then you waited. And while you waited, you watched someone else get it. Someone who seemed to have done less, tried less, wanted it less. Someone who, from your perspective, simply had things fall into their lap. You told yourself they were lucky. They had connections. They were in the right place at the right time. And maybe that was partly true. But there was something else at work. Something you could not see from where you were standing. Something that had nothing to do with luck and everything to do with attraction. There are two kinds of people in this world. There are those who chase, and there are those who are chased. The chasers spend their lives running after things, opportunities, jobs, relationships, recognition. They are always applying, always pursuing, always hoping to be chosen. Their energy goes outward. They are tired because they are constantly reaching for something just ahead of them. The chased are different. They do not run after opportunities. Opportunities run after them. They do not beg to be chosen. They are chosen. They do not chase recognition. Recognition follows them. They move through life differently. They are not tired in the same way. They are not desperate in the same way. They are not always proving, always explaining, always hoping to be seen. The question that haunts every chaser is this: what do they have that I don't? The answer is not what you think. It is not better connections. It is not more talent. It is not luck. It is something deeper, something more fundamental. It is the difference between a person who is looking for value and a person who has become valuable. Think of it like a magnet. A magnet does not chase metal. It sits quietly, and the metal moves toward it. The magnet does not run around the room begging pieces of iron to notice it. It simply is what it is, and because of what it is, things are drawn to it. You have been trying to be the metal, running toward every magnet you see. What if you could become the magnet instead? This is not about arrogance. It is not about thinking you are better than others. It is about a fundamental shift in how you orient yourself to the world. It is about moving from a posture of lack to a posture of generation. A person in lack is always asking, what can I get? Who can give it to me? How do I make them choose me? This posture is exhausting because it places your fate entirely in the hands of others. You are a beggar at the table of the world, hoping for scraps. A person in generation asks a different question. What can I create? What can I become? What value can I generate that the world will naturally want? This posture is empowering because it places your fate in your own hands. You are not begging, you are building. The difference between these two postures is the difference between chasing and being chased. And the shift from one to the other is the most important transformation you can make. Let me tell you about a woman named Priya. Priya was a graphic designer. She was talented. She worked hard, but she was always chasing. She applied to hundreds of jobs. She sent countless emails to potential clients. She lowered her prices again and again, hoping to get her foot in the door. She was exhausted, and she was getting nowhere. One day, a friend said something that stopped her, cold. The friend said, Priya, you are so busy trying to convince people you are good that you don't have time to actually get better. Priya was offended. Then she was quiet. Then she realized the truth. She had been spending all her energy on the chase, on applications, on networking, on selling herself. She had almost no energy left for the one thing that would actually make her valuable, her craft. She was so focused on being chosen that she had stopped becoming someone worth choosing. She made a decision. For 1 year, she would stop chasing. She would stop applying to jobs. She would stop lowering her prices. She would stop trying to convince anyone of anything. Instead, she would pour every ounce of her energy into becoming undeniable. She studied. She practiced. She took on difficult projects, not for the money, but for the growth. She built a portfolio that was not a collection of work, but a statement of capability. She became, in the quiet of her own studio, someone truly valuable. At the end of that year, something shifted. Without her chasing, opportunities began to appear. People who had ignored her before now reached out. Clients who had never responded to her emails now sought her out. She did not have to explain her value anymore. Her work explained it for her. This is the first truth of becoming someone opportunities chase. You must stop chasing long enough to become worth chasing. It sounds simple. It is not, because the urge to chase is powerful. It feels like action. It feels like you are doing something. Sitting still and building feels passive. Even though it is the most active thing you can do, the chaser is always moving, but never arriving. The builder moves slowly, but ends up somewhere new. Where have you been chasing? Where have you been spending your energy trying to get something instead of becoming someone? Where have you been running after magnets instead of becoming one? These are not comfortable questions. They are not meant to be. They are the beginning of a shift that can change everything. You have stopped running, at least in your mind. You have understood that chasing keeps you exhausted and empty, while the chased rest in a quiet confidence. But stopping the chase is only the first step. It clears the ground. Now, you must build something on that ground worth noticing. This brings us to the second truth. Opportunities do not chase people. They chase value. The world is not random. It is not a lottery where lucky souls win while the rest lose. The world is a system that constantly seeks solutions to its problems. It rewards those who can solve those problems with greater consistency, greater depth, and greater insight than others. The person who becomes a genuine solution to a genuine problem does not need to chase. The problem will find them. Think of it like water. Water does not chase the lowest point. It simply follows gravity. The lowest point attracts the water because of what it is, not because it calls out or begs. In the same way, genuine value attracts opportunity because of what it is, not because of how loudly it announces itself. The question then becomes, what problem can you solve so well that the world cannot afford to ignore you? This is not about finding a niche or picking a career. It is deeper than that. It is about developing a capacity so real, so reliable, so undeniable that people who need that capacity will naturally find their way to you. It is about becoming a source of something the world needs. Let me tell you about a man named James. James was an electrician, not a remarkable one, but a reliable one. He did good work, showed up on time, charged fair prices. He made a living, but he never had more work than he could handle. He was not chased. He was simply there. One day, he took on a job at a large commercial building. The building had a complex electrical problem that had stumped 3 other electricians. James did not know he would face this problem when he arrived. But as he looked at it, something clicked. He saw the issue not as a failure of the system, but as a pattern. He traced it back to its source and fixed it in a way no one else had thought of. The building manager was astonished. He had been dealing with this problem for months. He told other building managers about James. Within a year, James had more commercial work than he could handle. He raised his prices. He hired help. He became the person people called when they had the problems no one else could solve. What changed? James did not become a different person. He did not start marketing himself differently. He simply solved one problem so thoroughly, so insightfully, that his reputation spread without his effort. He became known as a source of resolution for a specific kind of difficulty. And once that reputation existed, opportunities began to find him. This is the pattern. Not chasing, but deepening. Not broadcasting, but becoming. Not convincing, but solving. The person who is chased has usually done one thing that the chaser has not. They have invested years in becoming genuinely good at something specific. Not good in a general way, but so specifically valuable that their name comes to mind when that particular problem appears. You have been general. You have been trying to be good enough at many things, hoping that would make you attractive. But the world does not chase generalists. It chases specialists. It chases the person who can fix the thing no one else can fix. It chases the person who understands the nuance no one else understands. It chases the person who has gone so deep into one area that they have become an essential resource. This is not about being narrow. It is about being deep. A deep well attracts more people than a shallow pond, even though the pond covers more area. Depth is rare. Depth is memorable. Depth cannot be faked. Where have you been shallow? Where have you been content to be adequate instead of striving to be exceptional? Where have you spread yourself thin instead of going deep? Again, these questions are not comfortable, but they are necessary, because the depth you develop is the magnet you build, and a magnet once built does not need to chase. You have stopped chasing. You have committed to depth. You are becoming someone who solves real problems in a way that cannot be ignored. This is the foundation. But there is another layer, one that most people never reach. It is the layer of presence. The person who is chased does not just have valuable skills. They also have a certain quality of being. When they enter a room, something shifts, not because they demand attention, but because they do not need it. Their calm is noticeable. Their focus is palpable. Their lack of desperation is itself a form of power. Think about the people you have met who radiate this quality. They are not necessarily the loudest or the most charismatic, but they have a stillness. They listen differently. They respond rather than react. They are not trying to impress you, and that very fact makes you want to impress them. This quality is not magic. It is the natural result of a life no longer spent chasing. When you stop needing things from others, you become free to simply be with them, and that freedom is magnetic. Let me tell you about a woman named Simone. Simone was a financial advisor. She was good at her job. She knew her field, but she was always slightly desperate in conversations. She was always looking for the opening to pitch her services, to make the connection, to close the deal. People felt this, even if they could not name it. They felt her need. and it made them uncomfortable. One year, Simone went through a difficult period. Her mother became ill. She had to step back from work to care for her. For 6 months, she could not chase clients. She could not network. She could not sell. She could only be present with her mother and with herself. When she returned to work, something had changed. The desperation was gone. She no longer needed every conversation to become a client. She was simply interested in people. She asked questions without an agenda. She listened without waiting for her turn to speak. Her clients noticed. They felt the difference. They began referring her to friends without being asked. People reached out to her, drawn by the calm they sensed in her presence. Her business grew faster than it ever had when she was chasing. Simone had discovered the third truth. When you stop needing, you become needed. This is a paradox, but it is real. Neediness repels. It signals that you are empty, that you require something from others to feel whole. People instinctively pull back from neediness because they sense they will be drained. The absence of neediness signals the opposite. It signals that you are full, that you have something to offer rather than something to take. People lean toward this fullness. They want to be near it. They want to understand it. They want, without knowing why, to be part of it. This is why the chaste person often seems effortless. They are not trying to attract anything. They are simply living from a place of internal completeness. And that completeness is its own advertisement. Now, let us be clear. This does not mean you should have no goals, no desires, no ambitions. It means your goals are no longer about filling a hole inside you. They are about expressing what is already there. You do not need the opportunity to be whole. You are already whole. The opportunity is simply a place to express that wholeness. This shift is subtle but profound. When you chase from lack, you bring desperation to every interaction. People feel it. Doors close. When you engage from fullness, you bring calm. People feel that too. Doors open. The work of becoming full is the work of a lifetime. It involves knowing yourself, accepting yourself, and building a life that reflects your values rather than your insecurities. It is not achieved in a day, but it is built day by day by choosing to be present rather than desperate, to give rather than take, to be rather than to seem. Where in your life are you still operating from lack? Where are you still needing others to validate you, to choose you, to make you feel worthy? Where is the desperation hiding? These questions are not easy, but they point to the places where, if you can heal them, your entire presence will shift. And as your presence shifts, so will the world's response to you. You have stopped chasing. You have committed to depth. You are cultivating a presence that does not need and therefore attracts. These three shifts form the foundation of becoming someone opportunities chase. But there is a fourth layer, one that binds all the others together and makes them sustainable. It is the layer of time. The world is obsessed with speed, with getting results now, with becoming an overnight success, with finding the shortcut that avoids the long road. This obsession is the enemy of becoming someone worth chasing, because genuine value cannot be rushed. It can only be accumulated. Think of a tree. A tree does not grow tall in a season. It grows slowly, ring by ring, year by year. The rings are not visible from the outside, but they are the record of its growth. They are what give the tree its strength, its ability to withstand storms, its quiet authority in the landscape. You are that tree. The rings you are building are the days of focused effort, the problem solved, the skills deepened, the moments of presence practiced. Each ring is invisible while it forms, but over time, they combine to create something substantial, something that cannot be ignored. The person who is chaste has usually been building rings for years before anyone noticed. They were deepening while no one was watching. They were practicing while others were promoting. They were becoming while others were chasing. And then, one day, the accumulation reached a tipping point. The value became undeniable, and the world, which had ignored them for years, suddenly could not get enough of them. This is the fourth truth. Becoming someone opportunities chase is not an event. It is an accumulation. Let me tell you about a man named David. Not the David from earlier, a different one. David was a writer. For 10 years, he wrote every single day. Morning pages, essays, stories, fragments. He published nothing. He showed no one. He just wrote. He worked as a waiter to pay his bills. His friends wondered why he wasted so much time on something that was going nowhere. But David understood something they did not. He understood that he was building rings, not publishing credits, not fame, not money. Just the deep, invisible capacity to write well. He was not chasing success. He was becoming someone capable of success when it arrived. After 10 years, he published his first essay online. It was shared widely, then another, then a book deal, then a career. People called him an overnight success. He knew the truth. It had taken 10 years of invisible rings to become undeniable. This is the pattern. The chaste person has usually been building in the dark for far longer than anyone knows. They have paid the price of depth when no one was watching. They have accumulated the rings that make them valuable. And when the opportunity finally came, they were ready not because they were lucky, but because they had become someone opportunities could not pass by. You have been impatient. You have wanted results now. You have measured your progress in weeks and months, not in years and decades. This impatience has made you vulnerable to shortcuts, to chasing, to abandoning depth when it did not pay off quickly. The shift to becoming someone opportunities chase requires a different relationship with time. It requires accepting that the most valuable things cannot be rushed. It requires finding satisfaction not in the arrival, but in the daily accumulation. It requires trusting that the rings are forming even when no one can see them. This is not easy. The world will constantly tell you that you are taking too long, that you should be further ahead, that others are passing you by. You must learn to ignore this noise. You must learn to find your own rhythm, your own pace, your own satisfaction in the work itself. The person who is chaste does not compare themselves to others. They are too busy building their own rings. They know that comparison is the thief of depth. They know that the only race that matters is the one with themselves, to become more today than they were yesterday. Where have you been impatient? Where have you abandoned depth because it did not pay quickly enough? Where have you let comparison distract you from your own accumulation? These questions point to the places where, If you can shift your relationship with time, everything else will follow. You have walked a long road in this journey, from chasing to stopping, from stopping to deepening, from deepening to presence, from presence to patience with time. These are the layers of becoming someone opportunities chase. But now we arrive at the final understanding, the one that makes all the others real and lasting. It is this: the person opportunities chase is not the one who has finally arrived. It is the one who has learned to live in a continuous state of becoming. There is a trap at the top of every mountain. The trap is thinking you have made it, that the work is done, that you can now rest. And in that rest, the very qualities that made you attractive begin to fade. The depth becomes shallow. The presence becomes complacent. The accumulation stops. The world is full of people who reached a level of success and then plateaued. They stopped growing. They stopped deepening. They stopped becoming. And slowly, imperceptibly, the opportunities stopped chasing them. New people, still in the process of becoming, took their place. This is not a failure of character. It is a law of nature. Stagnation is decay. Nothing in the natural world stays the same. It either grows or it withers. The same is true of you. The person who remains chaste is the person who remains in a state of becoming. They never decide they have arrived. They never stop building rings. They never stop deepening their presence. They are always, in some fundamental way, still on the journey. Let me tell you about a woman named Amara. Amara became famous in her field. She was sought after for speaking engagements, consulting work, media appearances. By any external measure, she had arrived. She could have rested. She could have coasted on her reputation. No one would have blamed her. But Amara did something different. Every year, she chose one new area to learn, one skill she did not have, one field where she was a complete beginner. She put herself in situations where she was incompetent, where she had to struggle, where she had to grow. People thought she was crazy. Why risk her reputation? Why spend time being bad at something when she could be celebrated for what she already mastered? Amara understood something they did not. She understood that the beginner's mind, the willingness to be bad at something, the discomfort of not knowing, these were the very things that kept her alive. They kept her humble. They kept her curious. They kept her in a state of becoming. And that state, more than any specific skill, was what made her magnetic. When you are still becoming, you are still interesting. You are still learning. You are still growing. You are still bringing new things into the world. People feel this. They are drawn to it. They want to be around someone who is still alive, still moving, still becoming. When you stop becoming, you become a monument. And monuments, however impressive, are visited less and less over time. They become background. They become history. The person opportunities chase is not a monument. They are a living thing, still growing, still changing, still surprising, still becoming. This is the final truth. The chase never ends. It just changes form. You will never reach a point where you no longer need to deepen, no longer need to practice presence, no longer need to build rings. The form of your growth may change. The depth may be in different areas, but the process never stops. And that is not a burden. It is a gift. It means you will never be finished. You will never be done. You will always have something to become. This is what makes life worth living. Not arriving, but becoming. Not reaching the destination, but walking the path. Not being chased, but being alive to the possibility of growth every single day. So, where do you go from here? You go back to the beginning, not to start over, but to continue. You keep building depth. You keep cultivating presence. You keep accumulating rings. You keep becoming. You do not chase opportunities. You become someone opportunities cannot ignore. You do not chase recognition. You become someone worth recognizing. You do not chase success. You become someone success naturally finds. This is the path. It is not easy. It is not quick. But it is real, and it leads somewhere worth going.